My name is Kylie Champagne. I am an education consultant too with LDOE's Division of Nutrition Support for the School Food Service Program. And today we're going to discuss part one of the verification process. So what is verification? Verification is the process of confirming that applications submitted for participation in the National School Lunch Program were eligible under the income eligibility guidelines. Section 9B3 of the National School Lunch Act and regulations of 7 CFR 245.6 AC1 establish requirements for LEAs in conducting verification of eligibility for free and reduced price meals based on the applications in these participating schools. Verification is only required when eligibility is determined through the application process, and it's not required for eligibility determinations made through the direct certification process. Verification must include either a confirmation of the family's income eligibility or confirmation that a child is otherwise categorically eligible for participation. Verification may also include confirmation of any other information required on the application, such as the household size. Another thing to note is that not all applications are required to be verified. It's just a percentage of applications. We'll discuss these methods for selecting applications later in this training. So while discussing the verification process, it's important to understand which SFAs are and are not required to complete all the steps of the verification process. All steps of the verification process is required for any participating SFAs who use free and reduced price applications, traditional SFAs, partial CEP, and RCCIs with day students. Partial CEP districts will just complete the verification process for the schools who are not CEP. Just note that other SFAs, the district-wide CEPs and RCCIs without day students, won't complete steps 1 through 4 of the verification process, but are required to complete step 5 to submit the results on the verification summary report, the FNS 742, which is due January 10th of every year. And its steps are discussed later on slide 14. So this is an overview of verification. At or near the beginning of the school year, the SFAs will collect student eligibility in 2 ways: through direct certification matches, the DC matches on eScholar, and through household applications. Starting October 1st, count all of the applications certified at face value that did not match on direct certification. Applications that were submitted and found through direct certification aren't eligible for verification. Use this total to calculate how many applications you'll need to verify. And then you have until November 15th to verify those applications. November 15th through January 10th is a timeline to report the results of verification on that verification summary form on the CNP website. All SFAs, regardless of their type, are required to submit that report because it includes additional information used by USDA, such as enrollment, identified students, and the number of operating sites per SFA. So let's discuss the collection officials who are involved in the verification process. There are 4 types of collection officials: the pre-verifying, also known as confirming, verifying, and hearing. These collection officials were identified as part of the application submitted just last month on the CNP website. This slide shows a brief overview of each of the officials' responsibilities, and we'll discuss more throughout the presentation. So first, the determining official. This person determines the eligibility status of all free and reduced applications using the information provided on the applications. They will sign all applications as they process them. The determining official cannot be the same as the pre-verifying or confirming official, who will do the second level review of applications. The determining official is also responsible for the for school use only section of the application. Larger SFAs may have multiple people designated for the determining official role. Many schools will allow the kitchen managers at each site to be determining official for all applications coming into that site. The determining official or officials determine free or reduced status by checking to make sure the application is complete, following up on applications with missing information. Any missing or additional information provided to the determining official should be documented on the application in a different color ink and initialed and dated by the person who collected that information. They should calculate or evaluate the application for eligibility, and they should assign and record a free or reduced status on each application or batch sheet. And again, the determining official must sign each application after the determination. Next, a pre-verifying official or a confirming official will only verify applications that are selected for verification. They do not need to confirm the status eligibility of all applications. When applications are pulled for verification, the pre-verifying official will first check the application to confirm that the status was appropriately determined. This person may not be the determining official. However, it can be a software program that has the ability to check and approve applications. Again, you would have indicated this on the collection officials part of the CNP application. The verifying official. This person is responsible for the overall verification process from October 1st to November 15th. This person will be responsible for the selection process, notifying households of selection, following up with households, reviewing all documentation submitted by the households, and notifying households of the results of verification. Please note, again, the verifying official can be the determining official or the pre-verifying official. Only the determining and pre-verifying officials cannot be the same person. Just a reminder, all applications require a signature from the determining official, but only the applications selected for verification require that review and signature from the pre-verifying or confirming official and the verifying official. Lastly, the hearing official is responsible for reviewing a household's challenge of a status determination. This person should otherwise be independent of any activity involved in the application approval and verification process. Often, a superintendent, business manager, or child welfare advocate will fill this role. So let's look at the steps of verification. You'll notice again, steps 1 through 4 are what we're discussing in this training, and step 5 will be discussed in the part 2 training later this year. Step 1, you will select the sample pool as of the number of applications on file from October 1st. Second, you'll establish your sample size. The sample size must be based on that October 1st sample pool. Third, the pre-verifying official will conduct a confirmation review of all applications selected for verification. Next, you'll begin verifying the selected applications in writing. And lastly, you'll submit your results on the verification summary form. Typically opens mid-November and is due on or before January 10th of every year. So we can discuss these steps in more detail. The first, selecting the sample pool, depends on the total number of approved applications on file as of October 1st of the current school year, whether they came in on paper or electronically. The sample pool is not based on the number of children eligible for free and reduced price benefits, as some eligible students will have already established eligibility through direct certification, and they will not have an application on file. In addition, the sample pool does not include applications where all children in the household are determined eligible based on documentation provided by the state or local agency responsible for the administration of the SNAP, FDPIR, TANF, or Medicaid, or applications where all children in the household are determined to be foster, homeless, migrant, or runaway children. So who is subject to verification? Only those households with a free or reduced price approved application on file as of October 1st are subject to verification. This can include the income applications, whether they're free or reduced, SNAP applications, and foster child applications. Who is not subject to verification? In some cases, students are determined free based on agency documents, not a free or reduced application, and therefore are not subject to verification. These are children who have been certified under direct certification, DC matching, and their siblings at any point in the current school year. Any children in RCCIs without day students, those with day students will be subject to verification. Foster children, children deemed homeless, migrant, or runaway by the appropriate official, and children enrolled in Head Start programs. If the child is categorically eligible under DC, foster, homeless, migrant, or runaway by agency records, and the parent also submitted an application, that application is not subject to verification. That categorical free eligibility supersedes anything reported on the application. Denied or paid applications are also not subject to verification. So now that you've determined your sample pool, you can establish the sample size. The LEA must calculate the sample size or the number of applications that will be verified. When calculating the sample size, remember to round up to the nearest whole number. At least one application must always be verified. With the exception of verification for cause, LEAs must not verify more or less than the standard sample or the alternate sample size if the alternate sample size was approved to be used. So the first method of determining the sample size is the standard or basic method. Most SFAs will use this method. The standard size is equal to the lesser of either 3% of all applications approved for the LEA for the school year as of October 1st, selected from error-prone applications, or 3,000 error-prone applications. And just a note, if you're using computer software to determine the sample size, be sure to double check the total. Last year, we had a couple LEAs whose software system rounded down and they didn't have enough. So be sure you're doing your own math to determine that you are sampling 3% rounded up. And error-prone applications are those applications with an income listed within $100 a month, $1,200 a year, above or below the free eligibility limit of $100 a month, below the reduced price eligibility limit. That first official, the determining official, should flag any error-prone applications during the approval process. In any case where there's not enough error-prone applications to comply with the required sample options, SFA must randomly select additional applications to fulfill the 3% requirement. We can look at an example of the standard method. If an LEA has 210 approved applications on file as of October 1st, how many applications will they need to verify, by what date, and what type of applications do they need to select from? 210 applications, and we need 3% of them. So 210 times 0.03 is 6.3. Rounded up, they need to look at 7 applications. They must be verified by November 15th, and these 7 applications must be selected from error-prone applications. If you only have 6 error-prone, the 7th should be selected randomly from the rest of the applications. And if you have more error-prone applications, you randomly select and verify 7 of them. In the case that your school system had less than a 20% non-response rate in school year 23, the alternate one or random method is an option. The alternate one sample size is the lesser of either 3% of all applications approved by the LEA for the school year as of October 1st, you selected at random, or 3,000 applications approved, selected at random. With the random method, error-prone applications are not identified for verification selection, such as the basic standard method. If we look at an example of the random method, alternate one, this SFA has 75 approved applications as of October 1st. How many applications will they need to pull for verification? By what date? And what type of applications do they need to pull? For 75 approved applications as of that October 1st date, random selection would be used to get the applications required for verification by November 15th. The math used to get the total is 75 times 3%, which is 2.25, rounded up to look at 3 applications. Again, note that these applications are randomly selected without regard to error-prone status. The last method, if you're approved to use it as an SFA, LEAs with less than 20% non-response rate in the prior school year, is alternate 2, or the focus method. Using this method, your sample size will equal the lesser of the sum of either 1,000 of all applications approved by the LEA as of October 1st, selected from error-prone applications, or 1% of all applications approved by the LEA as of October 1st, selected from error-prone applications, plus the lesser of 500 applications approved, which provide case numbers in lieu of the income information, or 1/2 of 1%, 0.5%, of applications approved by the LEA as of October 1st of the school year that provide case numbers in lieu of income information. If we look at an example of the alternate 2 method, you have 245 apps on file as of October 1st, with 60 of the 245 being SNAP applications. How many error-prone applications do you need to verify? How many SNAP applications do you need to verify? And by what date? To complete this example, you can do 2 steps. First, calculate how many error-prone applications we need to verify by multiplying the total number of applications by 1%. 245 times 1% is 2.45, rounded up to 3. 3 applications will be pulled from error-prone applications. Next, we calculate the number of SNAP applications to verify and multiply by 3%. Remember, these applications have SNAP numbers that were not found on the DC SNAP list. So in this case, we have 60 SNAP applications multiplied by 1%, which is 0.3, rounded up to 1 application. So in total, this district would need to verify a total of 4 applications, 3 selected at random from error-prone, and 1 selected at random from SNAP. So how do you determine which method you are approved to use? Systems will use their previous year's non-response rates to determine the method they're eligible for. A less than 20% non-response rate is allowed to use any method for verification. If you had greater than or equal to a 20% non-response rate in the previous school year, you must use the basic standard method. We haven't released the memo yet, but it will be coming out shortly to determine and list which method you are approved for. What is a non-response rate? That's a percentage of the approved household applications with no response to the request for verification information. So we know that any SFA with a non-response rate of less than 20% is eligible to use one of the alternate methods. However, there's also the option to use an alternate method for any SFA with an improved non-response rate. This is specifically for SFAs who, with more than 20,000 children approved by applications as eligible as of October 1st of the school year. These SFAs may use an alternate sample size for any school year when its non-response rate for the preceding school year was at least 10% below the non-response rate for the second preceding school year. If you have any questions about qualifying to use an alternate method, you can contact the state agency. We can look at an example of how the non-response rate is calculated. In 2023, you select 7 applications for verification. You receive responses from 3. What is your non-response rate for the 23-24 school year? And which method or methods would you be eligible to use in 24-25? If you divide the number of non-responders by the number of total applications selected for verification and multiply by 100, you'll get your non-response rate percentage. In this case, we had 4 non-responders out of 7 total applications. 4 divided by 7 times 100 is 57.14% non-response rate. In this case, since the non-response rate is greater than 20%, this district would need to use the standard or basic method. Apart from the required verification of a specified number of approved applications, regulations in 7 CFR 245.6 AC7 require LEAs to verify any questionable application, including on a case-by-case basis, verifying any application for cause when the LEA is aware of additional income or persons in the household. This is what's known as verification for cause. Determining officials are strongly encouraged to contact the household to clarify any information that's unclear or questionable before certifying the application and proceeding with verification for cause. Once households have been requested to provide the documentation for cause, the LEA must complete the verification process for these households. Verification for cause cannot delay the approval of applications, and LEAs can begin the verification process only after determination of eligibility has been made. If an application is complete and indicated that a child is eligible for free or reduced price benefits, the application must be approved while the LEA begins verification for cause. When conducting verification for cause, the LEA verified applications for cause following the standard verification procedures described in this presentation. After completing the confirmation reviews, the LEA may, on a case-by-case basis, replace up to 5% of applications selected. Applications may be replaced when the LEA believes the household would be unable to satisfactorily respond to the verification request. If 5% of total applications in the LEA result in less than 1 application total, 1 application can still be replaced. All results of the 5% calculation are rounded up to the next whole number. Any application removed must be replaced with another approved application selected on the same basis. For example, an error-prone application must be substituted with an error-prone application, and the newly selected application must then have a confirmation review. When an application is selected for verification and prior to hearing back from the household, that household is found on a DC or direct certification list, the application does not have to be replaced in the verification sample pool. The application would be marked as direct certification in the appropriate box in Section 3 of the FNS 742, which is the verification summary form. Then the application should also be included in field 5-5, the number of applications being selected for verification on that report, and indicate the number of these applications that are being converted to direct certification in the remarks portion. Prior to any other verification activity, each approved application selected for verification must be reviewed to ensure the initial determination was correct. Any LEA that conducts a confirmation review of all applications at the time of certification is not required to conduct confirmation reviews prior to verification. The confirmation review must be done by an individual other than the individual who made the initial eligibility determination. This requirement is waived if the LEA uses a technology-based system with a high level of accuracy in processing an initial eligibility determination. The LEA must receive approval from the CNP application where they submit their software system as the confirming official. If the state agency determines that the technology-based system is inadequate, it may require the LEA to conduct a confirmation review of each application selected for verification. After the confirming official has completed a confirmation review of each application selected for verification, they then sign the application or sign a cover letter to attach to the reviewed application. And this is all done prior to contacting household. Here is an overview of the LEA's responsibilities following a status change as the result of a confirmation review. We'll discuss these procedures if there's no change in status, a status change from reduced to free, from free to reduced, or if there's a change from free or reduced to paid. So this is the case if a status is changed from free or reduced to paid. If the initial determination of the application is wrong and the status is changed to paid, the SFA should immediately send households a notice of adverse action, not verify the application, select a similar application for confirmation and verification, and follow the confirmation review procedures for the newly selected application. If the initial determination was incorrect and resulted in a status change from free to reduced, the SFA must not correct the household eligibility status and proceed with verification of this application. If the initial determination is incorrect and resulted in a status change from reduced to free, the SFA must correct the household's eligibility status, notify the household of the change in benefits, and proceed with verification of the application. If the initial determination was found to be correct, the SFA should proceed with finishing the verification of that application. Once selection procedures are complete, the LEA proceeds with household notification. Requirements for household notification of selection for verification are included in 7 CFR 245.6 AF. When a household is selected for verification, the LEA must inform the household in writing of its selection and must provide a list of the documents or other forms of evidence the household must submit to the LEA. When the LEA uses agency records or direct verification to confirm eligibility, a letter or email informing the households of its selection for verification is not required, as verification would be considered complete. SFAs are encouraged to use the prototype verification forms on the CNP website, and these can be found under the Forms section of the website. The household notification letter must include an indication the household was selected for verification, a modified use of information statement, the full USDA non-discrimination statement. If a child is receiving benefits based on income, a list of the types of acceptable information that can be provided to confirm the current income, such as pay stubs, award letters from assistance agencies for benefits such as SSI, or support payment decrees from court. If a child is receiving benefits based on categorical eligibility, an indication the household may provide proof that a child or any household member is receiving benefits under an assistance program, or that child is other source categorically eligible instead of providing income information. It should include a warning that information must be provided by a certain date specified by the LEA, and that any failure to do so would result in a termination of the benefits. A notice that documentation of income or receipt of assistance would be provided from any point in time between the month prior to application and the time the household is required to provide the income documentation, the name of the determining official who can answer questions and provide assistance, and a telephone number where they can reach you. And the telephone number must be available at no cost to the family. So what is the difference in terminology between direct certification and direct verification? Regulations permit LEAs to directly verify approved applications selected for verification. Direct verification involves using public records from public agencies to verify household income or household participation in an eligible program, helping relieve families of this additional paperwork and reducing the gap in meal benefits for eligible children resulting from a non-response. Direct verification may be completed at the state or local level or through a joint effort at both levels. LEAs are required to conduct direct certification, but are not required to conduct direct verification. Direct verification, if conducted, must be done prior to reaching out to the households for documentation. What if a household is selected for verification and then later found on the October DC run with appropriate matches? In the past, the state has required SFAs to replace applications that were a part of the original verification sample and then appeared on the DC run. This is no longer the case. SFAs may now consider these apps as directly verified and proceed with verifying the remaining applications in the sample following usual process. The apps that were directly verified would still be logged on the FNS 742, indicating the responses in the appropriate sections. SFAs with electronic systems should always update their database as well to show that the children listed on the now DC eligible application are DC free and not SNAP app or income-based free. The National School Lunch Act requires LEAs to conduct verification follow-up activities. To continue the verification process after the household notification, the LEA must either determine if the household has submitted adequate information to complete its individual verification activity, or if follow-up with the household is needed. The LEA must make at least one attempt to contact the household when the household does not adequately respond to the request for verification. Non-responders include no response and incomplete or ambiguous responses that do not permit the LEA to resolve a child's eligibility determination. The required follow-up attempts may be in writing, by mail or email, or by telephone or even text message. The LEA must document that the contact was attempted. Additionally, the LEA must ensure limited English proficiency households are provided adequate language assistance and understand the need to respond to the verification request. When following up with households, the LEA must inform the household that failure to provide adequate written evidence or failure to designate an adequate collateral contact would result in the termination of benefits. The LEA must attempt to obtain the missing written evidence or collateral contact information and contact the household to complete the verification process if the collateral contact is unwilling or unable to provide the requested information. But what is a collateral contact? That's a person outside of the household who is knowledgeable about the household circumstances and can confirm a household's income level or participation in an assistance program or other source categorical eligibility program. This can include employers, social service agencies, migrant workers agencies, and religious or civic organizations. The verifying official should request a collateral contact only in cases when the household has not been able to provide adequate written evidence. So here are some examples of acceptable written evidence. Income eligibility that contains the name of the household number, the amount of income received, the frequency received, and the date it was received. For example, a pay stub with no dates would not be sufficient. Categorical eligibility from an assistance program should contain an official letter or notice indicating that the child or any household member is receiving benefits from that program, such as a notice of eligibility. A document from an assistance program that does not specify the certification period does not meet the documentation for verification. For example, the identification cards for SNAP or TANF would be insufficient because they usually don't have an expiration date. Or categorically eligible other sources should contain an official letter, notice, or list from the appropriate state agency, social service agency, program office, or coordinator, or court. So once you're conducting verification and contacting the household, how do you ensure that the process is complete for that application? If the household submits adequate and written evidence that results in no change in status, verification is considered complete and no further action is required. If the household submits adequate written evidence which indicates that the children should receive either a greater or lesser level of benefits, verification is considered complete for this household when the notice of adverse action is sent or the household has been notified its benefits will be increased or decreased. If the household indicates either verbally or in writing that it no longer wishes to receive free or reduced price benefits, verification is complete when the notice of adverse action is sent. If the application provided case numbers and it's determined that no household member is receiving benefits from the assistance program, verification is considered complete when the notice of adverse action is sent. And finally, if the house does not respond or fails to provide adequate documentation after the required follow-up, or the household refuses to cooperate with verification, verification is considered complete when the notice of adverse action is sent. So here's an overview of the verification results timeline. If verification results in decreased or terminated benefits, the household must be given 10 calendar days written advance notice of this change. The first day of the 10 calendar day advance notice is the day the notice is sent. If the household does not request a hearing during the 10 days, the reduction or termination of benefits must take place no longer than 10 operating days after the 10 calendar days advance notice. However,
the household requests a hearing during the 10-day calendar days. The SFA must continue to provide benefits for which the child was originally approved until a hearing is held and a final determination made. From here, if the hearing official rules that benefits must be reduced, this must take place within 10 operating days after the hearing official renders the decision, or if the hearing official rules that benefits must be increased. This must take place within 3 operating days after the hearing official renders the decision. If you ever have a question about verification results, please contact the state agency for assistance. When a notice of adverse action is issued, the notice shall advise the household of 1, the change, 2, the reasons for the change, 3, notification of the right to appeal and when the appeal must be filed to ensure continued benefits while awaiting a hearing and decision, 4, instructions on how to appeal, 5, the right to reapply at any time during the school year. Please note, if a family's benefits are reduced as a result of verification because they failed to respond or did not submit sufficient information to substantiate their income, and during the school year the family reapplies, the SFA must verify the new application prior to the family being approved for benefits. If the family refuses to provide the required information, free or reduced price benefits must be denied. The final step of the verification process is to complete the verification summary report on the CMP website. This final step will be discussed in greater detail in the Part 2 verification process training to be scheduled for later this year. The report will become available to edit mid-November and is due on January 10th annually. Please note that all SFAs participating in the NSLP, including DW, CEP, and RCCIs, must complete the FNS 742 verification report. Some frequently asked questions. Is the LEA required to provide a no-cost telephone option, even if no households live outside the local calling area? Yes, the LEA is not required to have a toll-free number, but parents and guardians must be able to call collect. This helps to ensure parents and guardians can contact the LEA during the LEA's operating hours if they work outside the local calling area. What if the LEA is using other agency records to verify applications and the agency does not respond before the November 15th deadline? The LEA should document its attempt to contact the appropriate agency in advance of the November 15th deadline. This would demonstrate good faith and would be a valid reason for the state agency to extend the deadline. A household voluntarily provides pay stubs that conflict with the income information on the household's application. According to the application, the household is eligible for free meals, but according to the pay stubs, it appears the household is not eligible. What should the determining official do? Under these circumstances, the LEA official must take appropriate action by either sending the household a notice of approval and a notice of adverse action at the same time, giving the household an opportunity to resolve the discrepancy during the advance notice of adverse action, sending the household a notice of approval and a verification letter based on verification for cause at the same time. LEA officials are in the best position to determine which action is appropriate. Regardless of the action taken, the inconsistency must be resolved. And number 4, how is overtime income counted for the purpose of verification? The LEA official should work with the household to determine which overtime during the verification month is representative of overtime worked in other months. If the overtime is a rare or sporadic source of income, the household's income should be calculated on the regular monthly income without the overtime. If a household is paid weekly and submits a pay stub for a week, must the LEA request a pay stub for a whole month? If the weekly pay stub is representative of the household's regular weekly income, one pay stub is sufficient. What if an application is selected for verification, but the household transfers out of the school district before the information can be verified? If a household selected for verification transfers out of a school district before the information can be verified, verification cannot be completed. To meet minimum verification requirements, a new application must be selected. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us at 225-342-9661, or you can always email childnutritionprograms@la.gov. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat at this time. Okay, I do see one question in the chat. Does the SFA have to have applications for cause? And no, they do not. Okay, it looks like there are no other questions in the chat, so we're going to end. Like I said, if you have any questions, you can email or give us a call directly at the office. Thank you for attending.